Hey nerds, we're doing a spoiler recap and discussion of Ahsoka Part 8, The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. It is directed by Rick Famuyiwa and written by Dave Filoni, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Colin.
I am David.
And I'm Nathan.
So, we are now at the end of the Ahsoka series. I don't know whether or not it's going to have a season one or not, but it's been very
Season two.
interesting so far. So, season two, sorry. So, the
Mhm.
spoiler free log line for this final episode of maybe season one is that the heroes race to prevent Grand Admiral Thrawn's escape. So, David, what do you think about this final episode?
I thought it was pretty good, and then it led me to more questions about it after the end of the series, especially for Ahsoka herself. But all in all, I liked there were some surprises and I did not expect, and but it led to there are some good sceneries there and a few more surprises too. So, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. Nathan, how about you?
Uh Honestly, this is I like the season finale. I at this point, having seen the entire season, I can honestly say that Ahsoka is probably my favorite Star Wars television show now, and that's because live action television show. It's not. I still there's just far more Clone Wars and Rebels, but the live action it's my favorite now. Um, and there were definitely things in the Obi-Wan show, and also things in I mean, I was never as keen about um the the Mandalorian as many people were. There are different corners of the Star Wars universe that people like. There's a scum and villainy kind of Han Solo, Mandalorian bounty hunter corners, and I think people are really excited about that because of the Mandalorian. I'm more of interested in the space wizards. So the Obi-Wan and the Ahsoka stuff is always going to be more interesting to me. And this is, I think, a much better show than Obi-Wan in general. And maybe that's just because I have um, backstory on Ahsoka, but I have backstory on Obi-Wan as well. It's just that the people that did that show did not do Clone Wars. I think if Dave Filoni was the one who was given the charge of doing that Obi-Wan show, he would have probably brought in some of the stuff that we learned not just in the sequels or the original series, but also stuff from the Clone Wars into that show. And since he does do that with this show, it's just really satisfying. That being said, it's probably I was watching a review yesterday from Mark Bernardin, who does reviews with Kevin Smith, and he hasn't seen Rebels or Clone Wars. And for people who like that, it's probably inscrutable, right? It's like, but I don't know. Like, I understand um, not wanting to come to a thing having to do prior reading, but like I can't make recommendations on things based upon people's lack of knowledge of stuff. I can do it sometimes when it seems reasonable, but when we're talking about like nerd stuff, and this is what the name of the channel is, the Nerd Social. You got to do the prior reading, man. You got to do the prior you got to do the homework. Where it's like from assuming that our audiences who are is who assuming a little bit about our audience. I assume people, if they haven't done the prior reading, are at least curious enough to do the prior reading, or go back and get a sense. Like some of that stuff is like, if you're talking about Star Trek, they're going to be very specific people watching Star Trek because there's like 40 years of stuff and there's like 834 episodes, and I might start referencing things. And the reason that, and that's also the reason that we do the Star Trek um, breakdowns a little bit differently. Like the way that we do the Star Trek breakdowns is that I actually spend like 5 or 6 hours on those and bring in clips from bring in clips from like several episodes so you can follow what the references. And we might have to start doing that with the Star Wars stuff now, because there's a lot of prior reading that's necessary to follow what's going on. So I don't know. I enjoyed myself, but I can see how someone might have been out of their depth a little bit and like not connecting with the characters also, because I will say that even with things that have prior reading, if the characters are acting in a certain way in the story that you're watching, that you care about the story that you're watching, it won't matter. And I can't say from the outside looking in that the actors in this show did a lot of emoting. And I don't know if they were just given the direction by the director, because it's not only just directed by Dave Filoni. It was directed by a bunch of people. I'm not sure if they were given the direction that they should all act like Jedis who are a little bit detached and like ministerial and stuff like that, and they don't have big emotions.
Right.
But if you're from the outside looking in and you haven't watched the Clone Wars and you haven't watched Rebels, I can understand like feeling like these people are all at like this level of like emotionality, and you don't really know what's important to them based upon reading them emotionally. And if you don't have the backstory, you can't key into that stuff, because what I'm doing is keying into what's important because I know the backstory, and I know who Thrawn is, and I know who Rosario is, and I know who Ahsoka is, and I know who Sabine is. So I understand why these things are important to them based upon other stuff that I've seen. But like, if you don't have that, then it's difficult.
Definitely. Definitely. So I think that for me, it's very interesting in that I feel that it was a very satisfying conclusion, because a lot of times there are things that are there that are so unsatisfying. We've seen finales that are unsatisfying. We've seen it in the MCU. We've seen it in Star Trek. We've seen it in things that we've reviewed before. But I think that for this one, it was you left with a very good feeling about it, and you still want more. Yes. And yes, there are definitely some things that are left unsettled, but it wasn't like, oh, it was really bad kind of like timing or anything like that. And so for me, it definitely is a good wrap up of something, but who knows what that something more is. I referenced in the spoiler-free log line that it was going to be maybe a season 2. I think that you mentioned, Nathan, that last week that we may just jump right into the movie. But I think more and more convincingly that they're going to have some type of season 2 to kind of leave it open, because I think that if you jump right into the movie, it's just it wouldn't feel right, I think, because there's still some threads that needs to be kind of covered. And and also, unless we get into spoilers, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But there's still some stuff there that requires a little bit more of a deep dive and a little bit more character development. Whereas in a movie, you can go it's pretty much going to be all action packed, and so the character development might get lost in that process. So I think that really good ending. I think that there's definitely some really good action scenes, some good kind of like deep cuts as well. That was really cool, and overall, I think pretty solid. Comparatively speaking, and in an overall sense, I think that Ahsoka itself, it's a series. I think it's probably is one of my favorites. I think definitely better than Mandalorian season 3, but I think that I think it's pretty solid overall in terms of it. It started off really slow, but I think that it kind of redeemed itself at the end of the day. At the end of the day, and hopefully it leaves people wanting more.
Yeah. There are definitely some threads that need to be picked up, and I like you said, I think that they're probably best picked up in a season, another season, so they can be fleshed out, as opposed to a movie that at most is going to be 3 hours. And please don't put us through another 3 hours Star Wars movie. It should be 2 hours, 2.5 hours tops.
Right.
If in 2 hours and 2.5 hours tops, I don't think enough time to flesh out all these threads. So exactly. They probably need another season, and then have it culminate in some giant conflict, and then that conflict is resolved in the movie.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So having said all that, David, what do you think you're going to rate? First of all, rate this episode, but then rate Ahsoka overall as a season.
All right, for this episode itself, I give it an 8, but the whole series,
Mm-hmm.
the whole season itself, I give between 8 to a 9. Because we
Okay.
think because I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it is, as both of you said, it is better than Obi-Wan. Because I
Mm-hmm.
really adore the Ahsoka character ever since the way beginning from the Clone Wars and everything.
Okay.
So because we've seen her backstory, her character development, and her development as from a kid to a full-fledged Jedi, even though technically she's not officially a Jedi and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But we've seen her own path and everything. It doesn't distract everyone with other things going on. So it is. A lot of people say that this series is like how do I say, not really focusing on Ahsoka, but really it is, because we all learn about more about her as what happens after Return of the Jedi, and now a little after when she became back from the Mandalorian. And but then the whole series itself, I mean, yes, it starts slow, but then later on you get to know more of what her story and get to know more about what's going on with the whole thing. Because you can't expect
Mm-hmm.
everything to be jumping thrown in at you, because otherwise you'll be scrambled.
Right.
And then people will be wondering what the heck just happened. But then as it slowly gets better, I mean goes on, it gets better and better and better, and it has fully explained what's going on. But now, after the season's over, we got more questions coming in. So, but I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it.
Cool. Cool. Nathan, what do you think? Just part 8 and also overall season.
I think I am probably going to give 8. There are certain things that weren't.
It's a hard
So
question,
like
isn't it?
I want to give it I want to give it a 9, but like if it was a 9, it would have, like, everything would have been wrapped up. But I don't know if I should fault it for not
Mm.
wrapping everything up, because obviously they're going to do another season. So
Mm-hmm.
like you and when you're doing more than one season, you have loose threads. Um, there's just a lot. There's a lot in this episode that is just really cool. What's annoying me is like the loose threads, and it's like I'm hoping those things get tied up, but there are like certain things that are happening in the real world of Lucasfilm and stuff like that, that I'm not sure if they're going to be tied up. In which case it's just going to be annoying if those things don't get tied up. So I'm gonna like reluctantly give it an 8, with the revision that I can revise that in the future, if when we revisit this, if there's a season 2, I can revise it up, and I'll give the season an 8 as well.
Mm.
I think that they definitely started slow, and I don't remember if we gave, yes, we did do reviews for the first couple episodes. I
Yep.
don't remember if we if I gave them 7 or 8s, but I know they weren't like 9s. We didn't get to a 9 until I got to
Episode 5, probably. Yeah.
episode 5. Um, I really like this episode, and then, like I said, it was on the bubble for a 9 for me. But I don't think even if I gave it a 9, I would give the season a 9. I think I still give the season an 8, which again isn't bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I gave Boba Fett maybe a 6, 7 for the season. I'd have to go back and check, because we
Right.
weren't using the same scale, but the show was at points annoying, and at points good, at points good. So like yeah. So yeah, I give it a road trip, which worth going to the theater to see, if you had if you had the 8 hours to kill in a day. Definitely, it'd
Yeah.
be definitely worth the day to go and see.
Well, don't forget. I mean, part 5 was in theater, so I mean, they were trying to make it cinematic. So,
Yeah.
there's definitely some good to it. I think for me, I would give this episode. I was a little bit torn between 8 and 9 for the part 8, but I think that given the action, given kind of like some of the threads being tied up, and then I didn't really mind too much as the threads there's some loose threads here and there, but I didn't really mind that. So I would say, what the heck, give it a 9. I think movie marathon, because I just feel as though it was pretty solid. Action was very solid. You
Yeah,
know, the visuals are
I could
really
definitely
excellent.
rewatch it
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the visuals are really really good. Yes, it started slow, but I think that they kind of knocked it out of the park right after part 5, and it just kind of like built from there. Which is what we wanted, which is what we wanted in a lot of the Star Wars, Disney Plus Disney Plus series. We want something like that, and then like coming from Mandalorian and Obi-Wan and stuff like that. There was not that type of build up as whereas this, it's like it built up, and it's just like wow, there's like more and more and more.
The last episode of The Mandalorian, the last 2 episodes were pretty good. It's just that they were just weird stuff in the middle.
Right. Right.
That in season 3. But yeah. I think this is the most consistent season of Star Wars that I've seen. And I know a lot of people like the first season of The Mandalorian, but to me, it was a little meandering. Like it was like episode of the week, which if you like that stuff, I mean, I used to like a bunch of shows that like that, like Buffy, but even Buffy had like a season-long arc, and I guess the season-long arc in the first season of The Mandalorian was like get the child. We didn't know what the child's name was.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think that was interesting enough as compared to the many threads that are going on in this season. I feel like this definitely was made for children, just like The Mandalorian was made for children, but maybe a little bit older children. So yeah.
And then also, I think overall season, I think I would bump it up to a 9. I think that action has been really good. I think that introducing
the visuals are great.
Yeah, the visuals are great. Introducing Baylan Skoll and also like Shin, really really good. These like kind of like gray characters, gray Jedi or dark Jedi, whatever you want to call it. Introducing them and having them have character depth, really really awesome as like villains. Thrawn, awesome, having and then you have all the Rebel cast that's all in live action. How exciting it was when we saw the trailer that we saw Hera, we saw Chopper, we didn't see Sabine, but having them all in live action, great. I mean, because we saw them from Rebels, so having that all tied in, it's been really awesome. And then going back to what David said, we've seen Ahsoka from birth all the way to like now, like a very wise, almost like Gandalf, Gandalf the White type of feeling. And so for me, because of all that, it's going to be a 9. So that's what I'm going to give it from me. Any other things before we jump into spoilers? Because I want to really, really spoil the heck out of this episode.
Let's break it down.
All right. So if you like what we're talking about, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out in the algorithm, and also just help us out in the channel. We really, really appreciate your support throughout this time as we can create more content like this. So, spoilers ahead. Okay, so we're going to get into the conversation here by looking at some scenes here, and this is what we talk about, what you talk about, Nathan, about the visuals. I mean, look at this. We've seen this a couple of times in the few previous episodes of the Star Destroyer, hollowed out and stuff like that, but look at that. It's just like, this is not, I mean, compared to the original Star Wars, when the Star Destroyer comes into the frame, I mean, it's not as cinematic or action packed as that, but this is just like really, really well done.
I mean, in that scene, it was chasing.
Yeah,
it was chasing
exactly.
another ship. But yeah. But you definitely see the scale in this photo, and not just the scale, but also the war. I mean, we saw this in the first 2 episodes back, how worn it is as well. It's a Star Destroyer, but you can see that it's seen better days. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I just kind of like this was like just what popped in at the very beginning of the episode after the previously on Ahsoka and stuff. So I just kind of like it really does come out really cool. And then we kind of get to see here, the initiation process where the Night Sisters were kind of initiating Morgan here, and again, awesome visuals, as you kind of can see, kind of like the initiation process. Giving, we'll see another scene with the sword there later on, but yeah, look at this. It's like
Yeah.
so intense, and then she had the warrior makeup on. It was really cool, to kind of see all that kind of evolve, yeah, as you went along. And then Thrawn's just like sitting in the back, like, it's typical. I've seen this stuff before. Yeah.
It's funny, since we're live streaming this, that we don't have the benefit of putting in clips, but like it'd be interesting to see what their back and forth was about what to do with this scene, because if you watch the Clone Wars, there was a similar ceremony with Asajj Ventress, but they had her like floating all up in the air and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, can we do that on a live action budget? How do we have to do wire work here? It's like, okay, let's do a pared down version of that.
Right.
A lot of glowing, still a lot of glowing, but we don't have to have her floating in the air, like a disembodied doll.
Right.
Because that's in her ceremony, and I think the words were exactly the same as well. That's what happened to Asajj Ventress when she got her power, when she was powered up. So.
Let me backtrack a little bit. I mean, before her initiation, Morgan and Dawn were talking about how to deal with the Jedi, and Morgan was just telling him it's only a small number of Jedi. There's no way they can beat us. And Dawn said, "No, don't overestimate, because I made that mistake with another Jedi, which is talking about Anakin Skywalker."
Right.
So he can't take it.
I think he was talking about Ezra. Like Ezra beat him.
Sorry,
brought him to
wrong one, Ezra. Yeah. So, yeah, my mistake, Ezra. So he managed to say Ezra, and hence that's where they are right now. So, so that's what led to like asking the great sisters to initiate Morgan to a higher power and such.
Right.
So, and then now we led to the next fight and everything like that. So.
Yeah, and then this is also a cool scene. Again, nice visuals of the sword, being framed together. And again, this is a deep cut. I think I don't remember where the deep cut specifically is from, but it definitely, again, the visual is just awesome here, and they definitely spent some money on all this. And I think it mentioned on one of the websites, it mentioned that it was like probably one of the most expensive. And they really did put a lot of money into the VFX here, a lot. So yeah, it's pretty cool scene there. And I don't know if I have the scene where she picks up. Yeah, she does pick up the sword, and you can see like she has kind of like the warrior makeup on, and it's like very well done. You kind of like feel like, oh my gosh, she's ready to. She's ready to really really attack and really do battle and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really cool there. Yeah. This is the part where you have the glowing as well with the green glow. Really cool.
The green fire, the green flames,
Yeah, really really cool overall. And Thrawn's just kind of like sitting in the back. I kind of like the scene when he orders the 2 TIE fighters, and just kind of like, TIE fighters are just so cool. The sound and all that stuff, and it's just, again, a nice visual of them like coming behind you, and then like like that, and it's like, wow, this is really really cool. And then we shift gears over to where Ezra and Huyang are, and so Ezra is kind of building his new lightsaber here, and they come up with Huyang was remembered remember who Ezra's master was, which was Kanan Jarrus, and so he had a nice kind of story about Kanan overall, and how the hilt that's there, it's actually one of 2 hilts, and one of them was from Kanan, and so he was able to kind of get the other hilt, and it was kind of appropriate for Ezra to kind of have that hilt, same as his master. So yeah.
Or as Huyang calls him, Caleb, because his name was Caleb.
Right.
Before he changed it to Hyde. So because Huyang is thousands of years old, so he knew him as a child. He might have known Yoda as a child, because I think Yoda's only like 800 years old. So yeah.
It's pretty cool scene. And then you can see.
I want a Huyang show. We talked
Yeah.
about this last week. I wonder
Yeah,
what
I know. That would be very interesting. Kind of see it from his eyes, come from his perspective. Even if it's like shorts, I think that
Yeah,
show would be kind of like a little bit too much. But shorts here and there be pretty cool
yeah,
to
but
kind of see.
shorts.
Like,
Like
yeah,
you could jump 100 years every short.
yep,
See
exactly.
see Yoda as a kid. See Obi-Wan as a kid. You know.
Yeah, and I think that that would be pretty cool overall. But hopefully Disney's not going to take our idea. But also very interesting here is that it's a blue lightsaber. So we knew that Ezra had the green lightsaber from the Rebel series, and he chose blue this time for his
This is
color.
this is his third. I think his first one was blue as well.
Oh,
His
okay.
first one had a blast. His first one had a blaster in the hilt, and then it got destroyed. Like it had
A hilt. Like,
he built a blaster into the hilt, so he could blast people as well.
Right,
Or
right,
he could
right.
use he could use the sword, and that one got destroyed. So,
Right. So was the first one blue or was it green? I
blue.
don't quite remember.
The first one was
Blue.
blue
Okay.
I think it was blue.
because
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think
it
it was
was
blue.
blue.
Okay.
The first one with the gun hilt, it was a blue. And then second season of
Hmm.
Rebels, it
Hmm.
was green. And then
Green.
this one is
Okay.
blue. I think because it's in honor
Cool.
Yeah,
of
I think one of the Inquisitors destroyed his first one.
correct.
Right. 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 Okay. So then we kind of shift gears into this conversation between Ahsoka and Sabine, and so kind of like a good kind of moment between the two in terms of Um, I don't know if they ever kind of like had any drama or any beef or anything like that, but it's very interesting kind of conversation between the two. I mean, you might want to see it as a reconciliation, but I didn't see it that way. It's kind of like more of a nurturing type of conversation. But go ahead, Nathan.
So we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this because we've been talking for a little while. But
Yeah.
what I will say is that previously, um, in the previous scene, Huyang asks about their relationship, and he basically says that Ahsoka left her because she thought that she was pursuing unlocking her power as a Jedi for the wrong reasons, and she was afraid that she was going to go down a dark path, basically because of the purge on
Hmm.
Mandalore. So it seems that I mean, people complain that this is focusing on a lot of other people, but like I think that it focusing on Sabine is important because the point of the season was master and apprentice. So you had to
Hmm.
kind of get Sabine's point of view, um, and see how Ahsoka has developed as a master and how she reconciled her issues with her master. And reconciling her issues with her master makes her a better master. And is and as you said, when she meets up with her here, there is no conflict because she's just going to accept her, just like
Hmm.
her master accepted her.
Right.
So she had misgivings about her master because of what happened to him and where the path that he took. In episode 5, she resolved those misgivings, so it
Right.
allows her to be a better master to Sabine here.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so, this is the part, I think this is like all that they're being attacked again. You
Hmm.
can see the TIE fighters going in. And basically, it led to kind of like the ship being damaged. And basically, they did a nice action scene where the ship kind of, I think it stops and breaks and then kind of like, yeah. And so they're kind of like stranded, and and Hu Yang would have had to be able to fix the ship, whereas the three of them then went to kind of confront Thrawn, and so
Hmm.
you can see here that I think this is Ezra probably like opening up the doors and using his force
Yeah,
powers
I
to
mean,
open the
yeah,
door.
they're all on those dogs
Yeah.
opening. But just before this, like um Thrawn had his Thanos moment where he's like rain hellfire
Yep.
upon
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Again, nice visual with the green lasers, and it's a pretty cool scene. Now, this is the part where it's kind of like really, like you kind of like, you talked about how they were kind of resurrected from the dead. We kind of get hints of that. We have Star Wars zombies here, so it's like really cool that they kind of use this use the zombie motif in Star Wars, where they're kind of being resurrected, where they pretty much slice and dice them, and
I mean,
then
we had them
yeah,
before, but this is the first time we've seen them in live action, and
yeah,
this is the first time we've seen in live action or animation zombie stormtroopers. Like, we've seen zombies. We've seen zombies before because zombies have shown up in Clone Wars and also I think Rebels. But like zombie stormtroopers is definitely a new.
There was one scene where I think that there was one stormtrooper that was like the helmet was ripped off, and then you saw the teeth, and you're like that, and then that was really cool. I think it was attacking Sabine, and it was like really really cool stuff there.
Yeah, the Death Troopers that Ezra and her go up against at the top, they have Beskar armor, so that's why when they start to chop at them, it doesn't help or doesn't do anything because they have the same kind of armor that Sabine does, which blocks lightsaber things. So yeah,
right.
They're called Night Troopers.
Yeah,
Night Troopers. Yeah. Sorry, Night Troopers. Well, the ones in white are Night Troopers. I forget what the ones in black are. The ones in white are Night Troopers.
Yeah. And you can see this is the kind of like the first this is like another battle here between Sabine and Stormtroopers. Again, more kind of like action with the lightsaber and just really cool. I mean, she's had at least 3 or 4 now.
This is actually a lot further on. So like I think this is after I think there's a big gap here. So like the Night Troopers get resurrected. They follow all of them, and then they run away. Then Ahsoka stands up against Morgan and tells them to go forward. And tells them to go forward.
Right.
And then she pushes Ezra across when he tries to do one of those Star Wars big
force jumps. The force jumps.
Force jumps, but he says that he can't make the gap, so he does a force jump, and she pushes him the rest of the way, and then because they've repaired their relationship, and this is actually something that Sabine alludes to when Ahsoka says go ahead. She says that we're supposed to stay together,
right?
So she goes back for her master,
right?
Which allows Ahsoka to win this fight. Like they're distracted a little bit. Like whatchamacallit, like the Night Troopers come up and they don't mess with her or mess with the fight. They go after Sabine because I think that maybe Ahsoka is probably more skilled than she is, but she was doing very well. Morgan, like she broke one of her lightsabers,
right? So. This is kind of like the rematch from the Mandalorian episode, and so you thought again Morgan lost that one, but this again the stakes are higher, and Ahsoka held her own even though she got beat up a little bit. She held her own, and this is the scene where the Night Sisters found out, the Great Mother finds out that she died.
She's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like and then like Thrawn's just like yeah, she served her purpose. It's all good. Move on.
I mean, I don't think he's that callous, though. I think he said that she served her purpose, but I think Thrawn in general, I think they'd have flattened him a little bit, but I don't think he's like a mustache twirling, everyone is disposable kind of villain. Like
understood.
When the TIE fighters that you were talking about earlier, they crashed and they were lost.
Right.
He said he made a very specific point of saying, make sure the captain gets a commendation. Like he cares about the people. He'll make sacrifices if he needs to, but he's not doing it like willy nilly. Like they wouldn't have gotten away. They wouldn't have gotten away without Morgan's sacrifice. So I think that's the point that he's making.
Got it. So. But also, this is the scene you're talking about where Sabine comes back. Ezra's now on the ship, and we'll get to Ezra being on the Star Destroyer. But this is where she goes back, kind of like protect, kind of like, okay, we're in this together type of thing, where she's kind of fending off the stormtroopers and Night Troopers as well. So this is the part where they're I think he's trying to shoot down something. I don't remember what this was, but they were trying to get into space here. Again, nice visuals over here with the ring and stuff like that. And this is them actually chasing after the Star Destroyer and going into space, and basically this is the part where Thrawn and Ahsoka were talking to each other about her being a worthy opponent which is really, really interesting. So let's just keep moving here. And then again, her knowing and like him knowing that, oh, I know your master. It's kind of weird because I just think that she's not intimidated by it, and it's like he's trying to intimidate her, and it's like, no, it's not working, which is kind of, yeah. Which I don't know what his play here is though.
I didn't read it like that.
Mm.
I didn't read it as him trying to intimidate. Like everything that he says you could read it as intimidating, but I think he just has a slow and deliberate way of speaking. so like if you take it as intimidation, I think he's just methodical in the way that he speaks, and I think he actually does respect her a little bit. So he was like, he was basically I don't think he was taunting her. He was basically saying good effort, but I won the day.
Just like, nice job, nice effort, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
And then this is the part where this is where he mentions a Ronin, which I was like, whoa, this is kind of interesting. It's like they kind of like be very meta about how she's a Ronin and stuff, kind of Lost Samurai type of thing going. And then it kind of, this is the part where he escapes. So basically he jumps into hyperspace, and the ship's kind of damaged, left behind, and so they're kind of like, oh, we can't really catch them anymore, but what else can we do? But it seemed very kind of fast in terms of Ahsoka's kind of like already kind of foresees that this was going to be the case where they're going to be stranded here, and just it just like kind of like, maybe because she's had this wisdom, and maybe also, like you said, she grown a lot during part 5, with Anakin. So maybe it's just that kind of like perspective that she has, that, hey, everything's going to be okay, and there's nothing to be despaired about. Then we're going to get like the vignettes at the very end here. Shin has her vignette, kind of like meeting with those tribesmen, the tribesmen in the red helmets and stuff like that. So we don't know what's going to happen with her, but she's been a very fascinating character, all throughout. And like I said, from the spoiler-free logline, it's like they developed these characters really, really well. These gray Jedi. So it's really, really cool overall. And then we see Baylan Skoll here. David, you mentioned about, in our pre-production, you talked about how you see the different gods that were there. So it was really, really cool to kind of see that visual that was from, I think it's from Rebels as well,
It's
right?
from Clone Wars.
Clone Wars too.
No. They were, first of all, they were called the Ones, aka Mortis gods. The statues represent the family of the three. One is the father, who has the balance between both light and dark. The son, who is aligned with the dark side, and the daughter with the light side.
And the daughter's missing there. There's a giant hole where her head should be.
Correct. Yeah. And then, yes, that's correct. They were seen first in Clone Wars when Anakin Skywalker first met the son, and then later the father and the daughter later on, which led him to find a glimpse of his future as Darth Vader.
And the daughter actually died as well.
What?
The daughter died and Ahsoka died, and then Ahsoka absorbed the daughter's essence. So that's why the owl follows her around, and we see the owl at the end of this episode. Yeah,
right.
I think the owl's name is Morai, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
And again, so they arrived through hyperspace, and then Star Destroyer arrived at Dathomir, actually. So it's where the Night Sisters come from, and again, Dathomir was very prominent in both the Clone Wars and also in actually in Rebels. Did they show Dathomir? I don't think not much on Dathomir in Rebels. They definitely remember from Clone Wars, because of Savage Opress. That was really, really cool. Then we kind of see the Rebel Home One ship, and you can see that they're kind of drawing their weapons and seeing this shuttle kind of like from the Empire, and they're like, what's going on here? And then there was like a stormtrooper that came out and found out that the stormtrooper was Ezra. So it was a really, really cool kind of reunion here between Ezra and Hera. And they haven't seen each other in a while. And this shot is really cool because again, it's kind of like a reunion, not just with Hera, but also with the ship. So and Ezra spending a lot of his kind of like his formative years on that ship. So it's really, really cool to kind of see that as well. I think we have one more shot here, and this is the final shot that of the episode where Sabine and Ahsoka are kind of like resigned to the fact that they're going to stay there on the planet Perida. And so and this is kind of like where I said where you're saying, Nathan, that kind of bad that they kind of let this kind of hang out there, untied thread and things like that. So yeah.
I mean, I don't want to talk too long because we're
Mhm.
running late. But like, this is what I wasn't. I was talking about the Baylan Skoll and mostly like because he was the most interesting character of the season. Like I would have wanted to see a little bit more about where that was going. I mean, we get a sense of where that was going, but like, and because Ray Stevenson is passed,
Mhm.
I don't know if they're going to recast or if
Mhm.
they're going to drop. It would be really annoying if they drop the storyline. Uh,
Mhm.
but hopefully they recast and then they have to figure out what they're going to do with it. I mean, there are some people that are suggesting that what's his name who plays Sabretooth?
Oh,
Uh,
Liev Strava.
Liev Schreiber should take on the role. He's physical. He's his same physical build, kind of big, kind of guy. And if you put a
Mm-hmm.
beard on him, he could look similar. So I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, we're running over, so don't
Okay.
want to.
Well, if we're running over, let's just kind of wrap it up. So again, if you like our conversation, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. And we will hopefully see you in the next video that we do. Probably going to be Loki, but anyways, we'll see you in the next video. All right. Thanks. Bye.